projects and whatnot. So if there's no questions, do we have a motion?
Motion to proceed.
A motion from Gisselman, second. A second from Henke. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And it carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks very much.
All right. And with that, we're going to move back up to the top of the agenda and knock these all out. We've got Common Council at 6 o'clock PM, so we'll probably, or excuse me, 6:30 PM. I was looking at the clock there, and we'll probably have a hard stop at about 6:25, so we'll try to get as many done as we can. Number 2, discussion and possible action on vacation of right-of-way at 700 Grand Avenue for Commonwealth Development and releasing obligation of the DOT for reimbursing city property purchase, $468,065. All right, and they're trying to think, this, I don't believe this has come to the
Yes,
finance committee before.
This is
so-
really just to inform of the change of the amount.
Yeah.
So the city attorney's office had been tracking costs related to this acquisition because historically they've been responsible for submitting land acquisition reports to the DOT, and we were unaware of the additional costs because they were like back from 2009. So the full cost is the 498, and we had only reported at the last meeting, it was 332,000. So
468,000 is the
yeah,
correct
oh,
cost.
excuse me, yeah,
Yeah.
468. And so really, we just want you to be aware of that cost that, as we mentioned earlier, you would not receive reimbursement from the DOT because we would be vacating right away. And a public hearing is scheduled in October, but, you know, again, it's just balancing the site and it's for affordable housing to that reimbursement, because you will receive future tax payments.
And if we were to take the reimbursement from the state, that would put that entire lot off limits for development. So,
yeah.
well, for the most part. Eric's up here, I think he's got some additional information, so.
Yeah, that property then would remain in right-of-way, and if it ever wanted to be vacated in the future, the DOT, would have to weigh in on that. But they would purchase that property or reimburse us for it. So very likely it would never be taken out of right-of-way.
It would not be developable
Correct.
for the most part.
Yep.
But if we were to develop it, we do have the opportunity of future tax payments that would cover these costs in
Yep.
perpetuity.
Yep.
So in the long run, we would come ahead. All right, any questions? Otherwise, entertain a motion.
Did you have a question?
I have a question.
Yes, a question.
Okay, Gary, you got a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So what other surprises are there going to be in the light of this new surprise? How many more will there be? But it would be developable. It's just not with this project. I mean, there were other projects that put their bid in for it prior to Commonwealth. I mean, when the request for proposals went out. So there were other proposals, not specifically Commonwealth, that, and the city at that time chose Commonwealth, but it would be developable. This project, not necessarily with the way Commonwealth is proposing to develop it, but this land would always be some sort of development there. I mean, it's just not going to, I would trust it's just not going to sit empty. People had a variety of different projects eyed for that. It just doesn't, it's just that the city at that time, and then through the years, we are we are here today with Commonwealth and trying to make this decision with regard to almost the $500,000 on the plate.
I would say the only piece that would be developable would be the 700 Grand Avenue right now, the one piece. The rest of it's all right of way. Yep, okay.
Yeah, and then you would have to get approval from the state for any development.
Right, that would have to get vacated at a later date, but since they're purchasing the property, don't see that happening.
Yeah. Alder Tierney?
Well, my thoughts are almost $500,000 is a lot of money, especially when we are pretty financially strapped. The other concern that I have with this is that's already a really busy intersection. This is going to make it a whole lot more busier for our citizens to get down that way. I mean, this is just a really busy intersection, and the way this is planned out, I see this making it far worse as far as traffic backups and problems. Thank you.
Okay. Looks like, Randy, you got something to say?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could please address Alder Gisselman's question about the different development proposals. So there were 4 different proposals that were submitted when we went out to the RFP for this site. With any of those developments, with what we have for right-of-way there currently, they would not be developable based on what you're doing and if you were to do the reimbursement from the DOT. This would significantly limit that site. It's not just the Commonwealth property. The other properties we're looking to utilize, forget the exact addresses, but 704, 706, 710, that area to the south. So it's not just the Commonwealth project. It would be any of those affordable housing projects that were proposed that would take up approximately 1+ acres on that site.
Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
A move that we vacate the right-of-way at 700 Grand Avenue for
Okay.
the Commonwealth Development.
A motion by Henke, a second. And I will second that. Any discussion on the matter? Alder McElhaney?
Thanks. I guess, I hope that staff understands the frustration about the situation. It has drip, drip, drip for 2 years. And I think if we would have heard this and was given this information in '22, was it? I was here, but I think it would have been a stronger decision. But I think that with the drip, 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 it just makes, I get comments that I didn't know what I was talking about, and, what else am I hiding? And I'm sure other alders are getting some of that as well. And I'm absolutely not saying that staff hid anything. It's just the way it is. But that really puts this development on its back heels. And I guess I just need you to articulate that publicly, that it really has, and it has garnered a lot of negative media attention and a lot of negative comments. And so that's really sad. And I guess, do you have a comment about how we rally and do do this project well?
Yeah, and it really is unfortunate how some of this different things rolled out as we went forward. We're always working with the best information we have at the time. We can't assume or make predictions of the future, but I think this process has definitely been learning and how we go about it. We've made some changes to the way that we do our pre-development process to make sure that situations like this hopefully don't arise in the future. I can't sit here and state that guarantee we'll never have anything like this happen again, but it is something that anytime something like this happens, we take a look. What caused it to happen? How can we prevent it in the future? It's not a position we want to put council or the mayor or staff in the future. So it's a learning process. I do apologize the way that this kind of came forward. When we were originally looking at it, we didn't believe there was going to be any DOT projects there. So this was a non-point. About 6 months ago, that changed, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on if you're the developer or the city. But ultimately, I think in the future of the long-term future of the city, by waiving this DOT reimbursement, in about 15, 16 years, we'll be able to recuperate that through taxes generated by the development. And we'll also have 50 affordable sites that wouldn't be there otherwise. So we're always looking to improve the process. Thank you.
And just to think, just to amplify what Director Eifrick said, that it's definitely, this is one of these things where it's, we can take a short-term payment now, or we can look at the long-term benefits of a project like this, of tax revenue in 50 affordable units, whereas the $468,000 now and development is off the table on that corner. It's short-term gains, is a long-term loss. And I'd like to see affordable housing built in this community, and I wouldn't want to see something like this prevent us to get those affordable housing tax credits for future developments. So,
I have one more question.
Yep.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I just I want to clarify that 468,000, that doesn't come right away. That would be when the DOT comes in. What year was that? 2029? Or-
2030 or 31.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we have accurate information out in the public, that this isn't a check that's being cut today. This would be future,
Yeah.
and quite a few years down the road.
Yep, that's correct. We wouldn't be getting a check now. It would be a reimbursement at the time the project takes place. So that would be future money that would come forward. Thank you.
Okay, Alder Gissman?
I think this must be an infrastructure question, but is the intersection going to be or changed, or maybe that's an infrastructure issue in front of that committee, but just in the light of development, is that intersection going to change?
Not extensively, according to the DOT. They do have some preliminary turning movements around that corner, but as you'll see on the map too, the city has reserved an additional 20 feet on the Grand Avenue side. There has been talk about, adding another left-hand turn lane on Grand Avenue going onto Thomas Street. And so that would allow us to do that if that indeed is what the final determination is. But that intersection, making that right-hand turn movement off of Thomas onto Grand, heading south, they do feel there'll be a little bit of widening on that, but everything that we have for right-of-way would accommodate that, according to what they've told us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So no more surprises then, is that?
Yeah.
I think the risk is low, but it's always possible. Yeah.
And appreciate the question. It's one of those things that it's a continual process. We're reacting to what's happening. We hope that there are no more surprises on this project, and we're sitting here at this time next year, and they're under construction with a beautiful new building. I hope that's what happens. We're doing everything we can from our end to try to anticipate anything coming up. Like Mary Ann stated, there's going to be a public hearing and infrastructure coming up, and that'll pave the way for the development agreement to come forward at that point. Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I do have a motion and a second, so we shall take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And it carries. Thank you. Alder Henke reminded me that we do have a citizen waiting for an agenda item, so we're going to move to number 9, discussion and possible action regarding the development agreement with STS Investments LLC, west of Birchwood Drive and west of Old Coach Road. And this was a developer agreement for a subdivision out near, on the west end of town, that went through the infrastructure committee and now has been bounced to finance in regards to the payment for utilities. Typically, the way that utilities, or excuse me, when new subdivisions are built, those assessments are made for the, at the time of when the parcels are sold in the subdivision. There's been a change in policy that the assessments are to be, or that those assessments are to be paid upfront. So we are, that's why this item has been sent to the Finance Committee to approve, to approve a change if we're going to allow this developer agreement to take those payments when the parcels are sold. So I think I got that correct. So, okay. Alder Hinkie?
Yeah, I'd just like to add in infrastructure, this past 3-2 on delaying the payment for the utility hookups, similar to what we did in previous subdivision contracts. I was one of the dissenting votes. I voted no. The newest subdivision we put in was Greenwood, and the new that contract had the utility payment up front, similar to what the initial contract with this development had. There were issues with tracking that payment, and it was just easier for engineering to get that payment up front as opposed to when the lot's actually sold. And then we recommended bringing it to finance because we didn't know if waiting 5 years had any effect on the budget. So we just wanted to run it through here real quick.
All right. Mary Ann, I don't know if you have anything to add. I know you mentioned to me that the assessment software does have a provision to.
Yes, we could manage the process through our special assessments software that we use today for anytime we're special assessing property. We also use it for sewer and water replacements, for emergency type things with homeowners. So it does have, quite a bit of flexibility as billing is concerned. So we could definitely incorporate that in the process, if
So
that's,
So those 4 parcels, they could be flagged, and when they are sold and that deed hits the county clerk's office, they would know that a special assessment would need to be made.
yes, because they would do a title search.
Yeah. So, Alder Tierney?
I guess my question is if we have a policy in place, why are we looking at not following that policy? I mean, we've got a huge subdivision coming up on the west side, which is going to be approximately 135 lots. Are we going to do this for them then too? Because we're saying that we have a policy in place that this is supposed to be paid up front and not as these lots are sold. So I'm just wondering why we're not following that policy.
Alder Hinkie?
I don't know if Eric wants to help me out here, but I was under the understanding it wasn't really a new policy, and it's kind of on a case-by-case basis when a development comes in.
Right, yeah. It's been done different ways in the past. Sometimes, developers' agreements have been written that we don't take that money up front, but in 5 years, if they haven't sold, then the developer's responsible for paying us. They've been, this last one at Green Vistas was paid up front, just so we didn't have to track that water and sewer, those costs. It's not necessarily a special assessment, it's more just of a charge that we're providing. So it sounds like our new assessment software can be used to possibly track that. So we just always in the past have had a hard time in engineering tracking those payments, right? Because sometimes those properties wouldn't sell for 5, 8, 10, 15 years down the road, right? And it's not necessarily a special assessment, so it's a charge. So so trying to track that, somebody has to maintain and track that. So
So we don't have a set policy.
we do not.
At this point.
We do not have something in writing that says this is how we're going to do it. Again, we've talked about other subdivisions that come in, much larger ones, and how we're going to manage that. That might be managed through the developer's agreement, however this body wants to manage those. But I do think that we have to start looking at a way to better, manage, make sure that we get those costs that we're owed, so. Yeah.
Alder Gisselman?
But then that has been, even though maybe not a policy, but it has,
Right.
the general understanding is that as we move forward with development agreements, that is what happens, even though it may not be
Right.
in black and white. That's pretty much
Correct.
the understanding that we have those development agreements for.
Right, and as we drafted this developers agreement, just like the last one,
Right.
this is how we drafted that, and we wanted to move forward this way. Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion, and of course, motions would be in the affirmative, so,
So,
Yeah.
I voted against this in infrastructure, and I'm still not sure how I'll vote on it at council. But from a finance point of view, I would make the motion that we move forward with the recommendation from infrastructure and facility to delay the payment to the time of the sale of the lots.
okay. So a motion has been made to, let me get this right. So the payments of the utility connection charge payment for the 4 parcels would be delayed at the time of sale of said parcels.
Until the time of sale, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever came from infrastructure.
Yep. Is there a second? A second from McElhaney. Any discussion? Okay, I'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that would be 3-2. It carries with Tierney and Gisselman voting no. Okay. All right. And then, we've got about 5 minutes, 7 minutes here. Item number 3, discussion and possible action, closing tax increment district number 6. Tax increment District 6 was up for closure last year, but we held on to it for 1 more year to take that increment for affordable housing.
Yep.
So now is the time to start that process.
Yes, tax increment district number 6 has done a lot of great things for the community. It funded the Thomas Street redevelopment. It funded the reconstruction of First Avenue, 20th and K, Callan Street, Plaza Drive, 17th Avenue improvements, Westwood Drive improvements. It helped with the demolition for the new Walgreens facility out there. It helped with some of the demolition work for all of the Kasurik projects. It helped relocate Wausau Window and Wall out into the industrial park. And this next year, it will help about $4 million worth of funds for affordable housing. The increment this year is $4,087,000. That would not be budgeted or levied December of 2025 for the 26 year. That equates to about $1.22 per thousand of value. The city's share is about 1.6 million, which is about 48 cents. Now, with the school district, there's a equalizing formula that goes through, so when a TID is terminated, they lose some of their equalization money. So it may not have a full effect on the taxpayers, but the district has done a lot of infrastructure work and a lot of redevelopment for the community, and it is time to retire it now. So once the resolution is adopted and approved by Common Council, it's submitted to the state, and that kicks off the closure process.
And I think we saw in our packet here the timeline for the entire process, so.
Yep.
This is just the first step in many in closing this TID, so. Any questions? A motion from McElhaney to approve, a second from Henke. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. All right. Yep, and we're gonna do one last item here before we, I don't know if we're gonna either postpone this meeting, we'll probably have to take up the remaining agenda items on our next finance meeting. I don't think there's anything that's super critical, is there? Except for item number 8, discussion and possible action regarding the 2025 budget calendar of October 9, 2024, October 14, 2024, and October 16, 2024. So hopefully the committee had a chance to look at their calendars. These would be our budget workshop sessions where we would go through the draft budget and its implications. And I was going to say, we're not going to have any additional requests this year, so probably not, but all of the fun budget stuff.
Yeah.
So. Supplemental requests. I don't believe we're going to have supplemental requests this year, so. What time would we be starting those? Probably.
Oh, I guess that would be up to the committee.
Yeah.
What time? I think there might have been one meeting, like Parks or something, before on one of these dates, but they met early.
Okay.
Do you-
On the,
Do you have a preference for start time?
on the 14th, there's HR at 4:45,
Okay.
and then on the, and that's it.
Oh, yeah. So we could look at the agenda at that point for HR and then start accordingly
So
afterwards.
probably the first one would probably have to be like at 6:30?
Yeah.
Or-
Not that
No.
late?
Yeah.
You think?
We'll look at-
We could start at 6 maybe? And then the second two? Probably 16th and, 14th and 16th. That would be a two,
It would be, the HR meeting's on the 14th.
on the 14th, yep. Okay, and then the 9th is on a Wednesday and the 16th are on a Wednesday, so. I mean, would 6 o'clock work? Is that too late? Gives you time to get a little bite to eat? Okay. All right, we can just work
Plan
by.
on 6 o'clock.
We'll just work by consensus there.
Okay.
And we'll go with those dates. All right. And with that, I guess these other items we'll just hold over for our next meeting.
Okay.
And 'cause I don't think there's anything that's urgent on here. No. Yeah, we'll hold these to our next meeting. Hopefully, we'll have more time to discuss those. And I will take a motion to adjourn. Tierney and second by McElhaney. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That doesn't matter. We are adjourned. Thank you. Council will start in about 5 minutes.